This is the plaintiff, Nicholas Lombardi. He says the defendant, his next-door neighbor, had a flood and it leaked into his rental apartment and damaged the floors. At first he said he'd pay, but a few days later he changed his mind and said it wasn't his responsibility. Now, there's mold developing. The defendant owes him big time, and he's suing for the $930 it's going to cost him to make the necessary repairs. This is the defendant, Borislav Lemberski. He says the plaintiff thinks he caused water damage to his rental apartment, but he searched high and low and has found no leaks in this house. From his 9 years of living in his house, he hasn't had a problem once with regards to water, and owes the plaintiff nada. He's accused of having water everywhere.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. These litigants are next-door neighbors. The plaintiff says the defendant had a flood that damaged his floors, but the defendant says there were no leaks. It's the case of H2O no.
Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome,
Nicholas Lombardi?
Yes.
You are suing Borislav Lemberski? Correct?
Yes, correct.
For $930 that you say you spent trying to fix water damage in a building that you own, that you rent out.
Yes.
And you say that it was due to a flood in his building.
Yes.
Okay. Now, he owns a building next to you. Are they connected?
Connected, yes.
They're connected. What happened?
I received a phone call from my tenant, and she said she was being flooded. So I said to her, I says, well, where is it coming from? You know, check the valves, turn off the hot water tank, wherever it's leaking, you know? And she says it's not coming from none of the pipes or anything like that. Luckily, I was about 10 minutes away, maybe 15 minutes away, doing some repairs from Hurricane Sandy. So I hurried up there, and when I got there, I seen there was water in her bedroom, bathroom, part of the hall, and a utility closet.
Are we talking about inches of water?
Yes. I don't know if you would measure it in inches, but it seemed quite a bit.
Okay.
And I didn't hear any water, which was strange. You know, I'm mechanically inclined. I've been that way for a long time. And in fact, I just replaced the hot water heater 6 months ago. So that was my first thought. So I checked the hot water heater. I'm checking all the pipes, everything. I don't hear water, but yet water is coming in the building. So after looking at everything and analyzing and couldn't figure out where it came from.
Did you check the water meter to see if water was leaking from one of your pipes? Do you ever, wouldn't that be something you would do, check the water meter? You turn off the water and check the water meter to see if it's still running?
Yes, that would be something you would do if water was coming in the house. But my next step was to go upstairs because there's an upstairs apartment right above it, and the utility rooms are one above the other. So I'm figuring something happened up there.
Right.
So I went up there, and sure enough, there was no water up there. Everything was dry. So that's when my tenant decided to go next door, and she spoke to her neighbor who's upstairs next door, and she was frustrated because there was water in her living room area, dining room area where her utility room is.
Oh, so she goes over to his building but goes upstairs?
Upstairs,
not
right.
On the first floor?
Not the first floor.
He lives on the first floor.
Yes, well, it's not actually a first floor. It's like a basement apartment. There's 4 steps going down.
Okay, so she goes to the upstairs is actually the first floor then?
Yes, I guess you would consider that, but it's a legal two-family home.
She goes to the upstairs, and what happened?
And she found out from her neighbor, Danielle Capone, that she was very frustrated. There's water on her floor and everything, and she didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So then the next step, she tells me, which I have an affidavit from her.
Yeah, I saw the affidavit that she submitted.
That she went downstairs. And
why isn't she here today, by the way?
She has a 5-year-old.
Okay.
And also she lost a boyfriend, a fiance actually, from about 6 months ago. So she's been very upset since.
Okay.
And she's barely taking care of the 5-6-year-old.
Right.
And she does work also. But
so then she goes to his apartment.
She goes to his apartment, and she realizes that he had water coming down his ceiling. And I didn't see it myself personally. That's why I got the affidavit. And she said she spoke to him, says that he had to go to work. He couldn't be bothered with it, you know?
Okay. What's going on?
Actually, I heard, yes, she had the water in her basement. But I checked, I had no water in my basement, and I went upstairs.
Hold on, who had the water in their basement?
His tenant.
And so how did you hear she had water in her room?
Because she knocked on my door to find out what's going on. I let her in. She says, I have water. I'm like, maybe it's water coming from you. Check upstairs.
Okay, she says that you had water in your apartment.
I didn't have water in my apartment.
She's a liar.
Yes.
And she says that your tenant, Danielle Capone, had water in her apartment.
We went together and checked, and we didn't have to check where the water coming from. We didn't see it. I asked
Did
my
Danielle
tenant.
have water in her apartment?
No. I went personally myself to see, and I didn't find no water.
No. When did you go personally yourself to see?
As soon as Jennifer knocked on my door, we went together.
So you went together upstairs, and Danielle, according to you, Danielle opens the door and says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any water.
No, she let us in. We checked everything. We didn't find water. So that was strange.
Wow, Jennifer has a very different story about what happened.
Yes, I know. But I'm going according to what my tenant gave me.
What did your tenant give you? Did you bring your tenant here today?
I was there myself. I asked her to come along.
You told my court staff you were going to bring your tenant here today. Where is she?
Well, actually, I told your staff that I'm going to try to bring her in, and she said I can't do it. She can't come in today. So.
You have her number?
I need to turn my cell phone on.
Turn your cell phone on.
Sure.
Do you have an affidavit from your tenant?
She said she's supposed to send it to me on my email, but I checked my email. She didn't send it to me. I have a phone number if anybody want to call.
Yeah. Hand it over.
So the defendant doesn't bring the key witness to court. Is the defendant out of luck?
Totally out of luck. You don't bring the person that's the most important witness, you're out of luck.
You lose.
You lose.
Going inside the courtroom.
Now, did you ever have a conversation with him?
I approached him and I said that I would be to go through his insurance company if he would give me the name. He said he didn't. He said he had something with his roof. They were coming anyhow. And I says, look.
Wait, but did you talk to him about the actual events?
Yes. And I said to him, I says, look, no, well, he knew, he admitted. He came in, he looked, I showed him.
Wait, talk to me about that. I want to hear that.
Yeah, well, we did. He came in, he looked.
At the time of the discoveries?
No, this was a couple of days later because the water was still
But I thought you said you were 10 minutes away, so didn't you just talk to him then?
That day, no. We showed him everything, and I tried to make an agreement with him where maybe we didn't have to go through the insurance company. If he paid for the materials, I would do the repair myself. And he said he would let me know. And I texted him, called him a few times. He never got back to me. And that was the end of that.
I don't normally do this, but I'm fascinated by it. So he talks to you that whole time like, yeah, I'm covering this. I'll put it through my insurance company, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
She doesn't pick it up?
Nah, she doesn't pick it up.
She's in school right now. So.
Well, at least he brought me an affidavit. So according to you, a couple of days later, he comes over and does what?
Well, we talked about it, and I also agreed with him. I wanted to do the repair myself if he would just pay for the materials, because I understand as a landlord, you know, you don't look for these things to happen. And I was, but then he never got back to me, never called me. I texted him, I called him. So my tenant was more frustrated, of course, because she's living with this water under. It was like a pergo floor, you know, a laminate floor.
So now it's starting to bubble.
And it's starting to bubble.
And she has a kid,
and she's telling
mold.
me. And of course, the mold is a big thing going on today because of the storm we had. So it's being publicized. So I just went ahead and did the work myself. I had my floor guy come in there. I moved the furniture because like she's a single parent, and we took care of the problem.
All right, and then so you are asking for what you paid your floor guy, which is the $830, and you want an extra $100 for what?
Well, I figured
time spent dealing with it.
Well, I had to pay for the for court fee to get this to court, and gas and time. And
okay, Mr. Limbersky, I now have the owner of that building also saying that you told him you would put it through your insurance.
Well, they convinced me it was my fault, but How
did they convince you it's your fault that there's no water in your basement or in your tenant's apartment? How did they convince you that something that happened?
They were calling me.
I'm not done. Oh. How did they convince you that it's your fault that there's water in an adjacent building when there's no water in yours? You're very suggestible. Maybe you're just a liar, and there was water in yours, or there was water in your tenant's.
Like I said, I went upstairs to check together with Jennifer.
Yeah, but I'm finding it unbelievable that the veracity of that statement, the truthfulness of that statement. Like I said, I went up there was no water. I'm finding it hard to believe if you have allowed them to convince you that it's your fault and that you should put it through your insurance. Now it's starting to sound like he's right, that there in fact was water in your tenant's apartment. That and the fact that you didn't bring your tenant to testify today, nor bring an affidavit from your tenant, because maybe your tenant refuses to perjure herself.
I don't know. She was telling me that she doesn't have water. Everything is running well.
That's not what his tenant says.
I know, but this is what my tenant is saying.
In fact, his tenant says it's water in yours.
I'm just going whatever my tenant told me, so I have no control.
Either that or you're lying to me. So I'm going to order you to pay the $830 that he paid to fix the floor plus his court costs. That's my verdict.
And so the defendant loses his case and comes in here and says, well, what's your reaction coming out afterwards?
I'm surprised, the judge awarded the case because there was a little bit of damage anyway.
How can somebody suggest to you that you did it and then finally you start to believe him?
Yeah, they were calling me nonstop, and I asked my tenant what's happening. She says, I don't know where the water came from, and I didn't have water in my place.
Why don't you just why'd you go over and even look at the damage if you were sure that it was not coming from you?
To be honest with you, I was surprised. I wanted to see. They wanted money from me, and why they wanted so much money? For a little piece of wood coming out, it's absurd.
Now they got it.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, head right down there. All right, come on in here. Tell me what's your feeling on the outcome in this case here, sir. Come on in.
Well, justice prevailed.
You think so?
Yes, of course.
He insists that you didn't do it. He says he only admits it because you convinced him.
Well, the only thing I'm sorry is I didn't get a statement from Mrs. Capone next door. And if this would have went the other way, I would have approached her and tried to get a statement from her.
All right. Harvey?
I don't know how to say it better than her. I mean, if you don't bring the key witness to court or at least get a sworn affidavit from that key person, you are going to lose that case.